Welcome to another episode of Purpose NIL. I'm your host and coach on Purpose, James M. Rink. With me again, John Locke, tight end for the University of Oklahoma football is with me. John, spring break is over. How has your life been this week as you begin your off season and preparing for fall football?
It's been good because, last week I was able to really refresh. Got to spend most of the week doing things that I normally don't have time to do, like golf and just slowing things down with some friends. Then this weekend for Easter, got to go to Dallas, spend time with my family.
That's great. And like all student athletes, when you get to your seasonal breaks, whether it's spring break or an Easter break or summer break, it's the perfect time to work on your own NIL. And I would encourage you and everybody in our audience to build your NIL based on your purpose. Follow John's example. Let his story inspire you to do the same thing. Figure out your purpose to build your NIL brand and let that build new opportunities in your life. And if you're any student, a CEO, or a sales executive, we all make money off of our own NIL, our own personal brand. It's what we put on our resume. It's what we put on our social media. Use your purpose to build your NIL, your own personal brands and opportunities, and let new opportunities come into your life. Now, on a previous episode, John wrote the first draft of his purpose statement, and he's been living it incrementally in his life. John, would you mind reminding the audience what your first draft or your current draft of your purpose statement is, and any rewrites or tweaks that you might have done?
Right. So the current draft that I have with my purpose statement is that my purpose is to inspire children to dream big, to invest in families to achieve their purpose, and to have passion in everything I do, leading to exceeding expectations and inspiring leaders.
Now, if memory serves from the very first draft, your purpose statement was a little more smaller in vision and scope. It sounds to be a little bit more bigger and broader. Does that sound like a fair assessment?
Yeah, that's correct. And especially, with that family portion where at first I had it at just my family, but really I should be trying to inspire all families, including my family.
That's great. And one recap that we have talked about in previous episodes is that once we identify the feelings we love to feel, we can acknowledge those are the same feelings we love to give others. Now, in a purpose statement, as another recap, is we love to use words of feelings to put to actions to connect to people. So if you listen to John's purpose statement, you'll hear words of feelings put to actions to connect to people. So John, I heard a great documentary line this last week, and it really got my attention. It was on Albert Einstein. And Albert Einstein, there was a thesis in it is you never accomplish anything big if it doesn't first start with a dream. A dream is like a seed. So John, I want to ask you a question because it got me thinking about this wonderful picture that your mother has sent us to show your commitment to football as a third grader. You've got your hand on the ball, it's tucked in, you look like you're running the ball and you're ready to either get a touchdown or move the ball forward in the field. But I also remembered it was at that same time in your life, you were probably 9 or 10, I think you said third grade, when you first had the dream to play football at the University of Oklahoma. Remind the audience of that moment in time. And I want you to also reflect on how that moment made you feel.
Absolutely. I'll never forget it. Going into that third grade year, football was really starting to pick up in my life. Specifically, the desire to play at the University of Oklahoma came from when I was in third grade, they played in the Sugar Bowl, and their quarterback was someone by the name of Trevor Knight. And my cousin had a connection to him. And so when I was watching that game, this was probably a month after I had found out from my dad that, my great grandfather played at the Oklahoma and was on a championship team. And I was watching the Sugar Bowl, and my cousin took a picture of me and sent it to Trevor Knight after the game. They ended up winning the game. And then he got back to her and sent her an autographed, and then I got to meet him. And it was really those two moments. I didn't talk about the Trevor Knight thing, but I just remembered it recently. But those two moments, finding out that my great grandfather played for the University of Oklahoma, and then shortly after having a surreal experience like that, really just elevated my desire. And I really reflected on that because I really had forgotten about it. But after signing a bunch of autographs for kids at the Crimson Combine, it reminded me that when I was in third grade, I'd gotten an autograph from Oklahoma's starting quarterback at the time, Trevor Knight, and how that elevated my desire to work hard and pursue my dreams.
That's great. And it's always interesting when you start really focusing on these key moments in your life and how they made you feel. Those new stories and memories come to light. So it's always good to journal what you're learning about yourself and your purpose. So here's my question to you. In those two moments, what feelings did you feel when your dad told you about your grandfather who played at the University of Oklahoma in the 30s, as well as the starting quarterback, Trevor, gave you just a moment of time out of his life? How did that make you feel?
I was so inspired by the knowledge that, someone in my bloodline played for this ginormous university, and being such a little kid and playing Pop Warner football, it was a lot to take in that, someone in my family had accomplished something so big, and it gave me such a desire to do so. And then, shortly after, to watch someone on national television and then be able to get feedback from them, it's amazing what little gestures and little things here and there can do.
That's powerful. So what I heard you say was awe, inspire, dream.
Yep.
Now read your purpose statement again.
My purpose is to inspire children to dream big, to invest in families to achieve their purpose, and to have passion in everything I do, leading to exceeding expectations and inspiring leaders.
And the feelings you love to feel are the feelings you're now committed to go give to others. So here's where this all really comes down to, as we all look at the core feelings and moments in our life that get directly connected to our purpose. It's not me, it's neuroscience. One of my favorite quotes comes from world famous neurologist Antonio Damasio, who says, "We are not either thinking machines or feeling machines, but rather feeling machines that think." John felt something as a third grader from these two incidences with his father and with the star quarterback, Trevor, that planted a seed in his life to dream big. And now he's accomplished a step of that, and he's empowering others to do the same. That is purpose. And that's the opportunity that all of us have. Once we can identify the core feelings we love to feel, they are the feelings we want to go give to others. So, John, I'm going to give you an opportunity to step up to the microphone. Let's imagine that there's third graders out there listening right now in the audience, or parents of those third graders. What would you say to those young dreamers?
I would just tell them that whatever it is that they feel is their dream, it is not too big. There's no limitations on what you can do with your life at that young of an age, because your whole life is in front of you. And Coach Venables always likes to say that, we are all the authors to our story, and we have the pen to write the story. And so it's up to us to choose how we want to write that story. And the advantage you have as a third grader is you can create habits that will last a lifetime. And you just, like I said, you have your whole life in front of you. And so I just would ask that you don't limit yourself on your dreams. If you want to get something, go get it.
That's great. You heard it from John Locke. Dream big and don't stop dreaming and don't stop pursuing it. Let your purpose come to life in those dreams. In preparation for today's Purpose NIL, John Locke went through Purpose of Use Masterclass to identify his core values. Purpose, mission, and values always get interconnected. If you have mission or purpose, you always have to have values to protect it. It's like a vital organ, like your heart. Your purpose is your heart. Your values are the rib cage and sternum around your heart to protect it. When it comes to NIL for businesses and athletes, businesses always have values that protect the company's mission. Identifying your values as a student athlete for NIL opportunities, many times for a corporation to invest in you with an NIL opportunity, they want to ensure that your values align with their values. Purpose and values always go together. Now, in the Purpose of You Masterclass, I've asked John to identify his core values. The two questions that I always tell people are, if you're in a dating relationship, what's the fastest value to break up with that person? Or if you hire somebody to do work or a job for you, what's the fastest way for them to get fired? So, John, going through this exercise, what did you learn about yourself and what are your core values?
So my core values, which I think work, I like how you set up the exercise in terms of, what kind of sets you off, because that is ultimately what values you hold to yourself. And so the values that I came up with a little more than five. They were accountability, dependability, commitment, faith, integrity, sacrifice, vision, and then my most important, and I think the one I hold most true to myself, is discipline.
All right, so I've counted 8 values, which means you are a man of value, which is always a good thing. But I'd like to just get a little context for each of these, if you don't mind. Let's start with the first word, accountability. How did you get to that word?
I think, if you're in a meaningful relationship with somebody, whether it's in the workforce or, a personal relationship, accountability has to be something that's evident, because one goes both ways. I have to be able to hold them accountable and they have to be able to meet that versus them holding me accountable, because it just shows a level of trust. And if, you can't be accountable, then what kind of relationship can we build, and, how can we get anywhere?
That's great. And accountability is vital in the world of finance. So if you're going into that after college, accountability is just paramount in the accounting business. All right. How about dependability? How did you get to that word?
Yeah, so dependability is also huge because, from a football standpoint, if I can't depend on someone to do the bare minimum, then once again, we're never going to get anywhere.
Okay. How about integrity?
Yeah, well, with integrity, if I'm in a relationship with somebody or if I'm in a workforce with somebody, I want everything that they do to be with integrity, because I like to think that everything I'm trying to do, and I know I'm not perfect, but everything I'm doing is with as much integrity as I can possibly give.
That's great. And then how about discipline?
So discipline, I think, is probably my biggest value, because my whole life I've always said that one thing I'll always be is someone who's very disciplined. And I'm not perfect, but when it comes to my goals and aspirations, the discipline that I'm going to have towards that in terms of what has to be done, like it's going to get done. And I always like to say that that's something that was passed down directly from my father, because the only person that growing up, especially, that I ever said was more disciplined than me was my father. He wasn't going to be late. He wasn't going to drop the ball, and it led to a extreme amount of success in his life because, he was just so disciplined. And so it's really important to me.
That's great. How about commitment?
Commitment is also big too, because we always like to say in my family that Locks are really loyal and that Locks give a lot of commitment to whatever they do. So if I'm in a relationship or I'm in the workforce with somebody, like, I got to have that same level of commitment going around, because I'm going to show 100% commitment in whatever it is I'm doing. So if someone around me isn't, it's going to show.
That's good. How about faith?
Faith is big too, because, you always have to have faith, because there's times in life where, things are just going to be uncertain, and that you have to have faith to fall back on spiritually, but also, just having faith in what you've done to get you to that moment. And so faith is huge.
And how about sacrifice?
Sacrifice, I think I just relate to, on a more personal level. And I hope to, do more as I get in better positions to do so. But like, my parents just have sacrificed so much for me and my brothers and my sister. And, the level of success that their sacrifice has led to has just been astronomical. And I want to be able to do the same. Sacrifice is a value that means a lot to me. So if someone in a relationship with me can do that for me, I mean, that goes a long way. And I definitely want to be able to do the same back.
Excellent. And the last one I had was vision.
Right. Vision. Vision is also also important because, if you don't have a vision with, for example, in this exercise, if you don't have a vision in this workplace or with a personal partner, then like what is the point? There has to be a vision of what you wish to accomplish in whatever it is that you're doing. And I mean, without that, like you're just kind of aimlessly, going, and it'll lead to a lack of success.
That's great. Student athletes, you must have values. Corporations are always going to be interested in what your core values are to make sure your values align with the values of the company that you want to represent. As John has been perfecting his purpose statement, the best way to learn is to practice. Practicing your purpose is the best way to figuring out exactly the sweet spot of your purpose. And I've asked John to daily be intentionally living his purpose and noting how that makes him feel. I would encourage you to do the same thing. So John, can you tell us a story of one way that you've been able to intentionally live your purpose in the past week?
Yeah, absolutely. So, this weekend was Easter, and my little sister, really taken off in her purpose through volleyball. They had a big club tournament in Dallas, and so it was a great opportunity for me to go down there. So we got to have a family get together for Easter while my sister was playing volleyball. And so on Saturday, I got to go see her play. And, it was just really cool to see, how much her game, and you can just tell how much her desire to win and to just be successful in volleyball has grown over the years that I've watched her. She's out there, blocking people and, spiking the ball. And it's just really impressed me. I told her how proud of her I was, and that, the last time I saw her play was probably over winter break. And just in that 3-month window to see her astronomically improve, it just makes me really proud she's able to just do what she loves and fulfill her purpose, and that I was able to invest in it.
If you're like most people, you're feeling overwhelmed and stressed in life. This is happening globally as people are going through many, many disruptions in our economy, wars, and all kinds of unknown circumstance. The great thing about purpose is it helps you to transcend and give you a true north guide through the chaos and noise. I asked John when he began the Purpose of You Masterclass to first answer 16 questions that are available to you. They're free to answer at purposeofyou.com. It's our transformation assessment. The yes and no questions will help identify if purpose can help you overcome your challenges as well as provide new opportunities in your own life. John, what was one of the other 16 questions that you answered yes to?
Yeah, so one of the other questions was, do you feel living your purpose will help you to provide for and protect your loved ones, family members, and yourself? And I think, absolutely it will, because if I'm living my purpose, then, for example, my parents who have invested so much in me to fulfill my purpose, it's really going to protect, their emotional side. For me to live my purpose is really just going to create a sense of, calmness and peace over them, because they know that what they've done for the course of my entire life was not a waste. And I think that that is absolutely protecting them.
All right, John. So we've got a few minutes left in today's episode. What is one thing that you've learned about yourself or your purpose in this last week?
One thing that I've learned definitely came this weekend watching my little sister play volleyball it just really brought me a lot of joy just to see her living her purpose and knowing that, my investment as well as my parents' continued investment into her is truly paying off, and that she's doing what she loves, and that, she's maturing in the right way and just becoming a great young woman, and to see her working hard at her purpose and for it to, be having success and, playing really well. It was really awesome to see it.
That's great. Well, John, as always, we're thrilled that you're a guest here on Purpose NIL, and we always love hearing your story. You always inspire us by just simply sharing your story and living your purpose. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to next week.
And make sure you follow John on X at John Locke OC, and on Instagram, John_Locke3103. For more information about the Purpose of You Masterclass, as well as the Purpose of You free transformation assessment, please go to purposeofyou.com. And make sure you subscribe on YouTube and follow me on all social media at James M. Rink. Now, on the next episode of Purpose NIL, John is going to write his personal purpose plan, which will include his missions, his goals, and the things he wants to prune away from his life that are distracting him from his purpose. You don't want to miss that episode. Thanks for joining us on this week, Purpose NIL.